Today's episode is presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
Yes! So, Game of Thronesy, we are back, guys. Welcome to Season 2 of Watching Thrones, Season 7 of Game of Thrones, where, if you haven't guessed by now, we watch Game of Thrones and we talk about it. But it is not just us. We want to hear from you, so call in at our Skype line, SJPlusLive, SJPlusLive on Skype, and tweet that with the hashtag Watching Thrones to join the discussion. Joining us is a small council of brilliant maesters, all of them. First up, Kyle Maddock from the podcast of Ice and Fire.
Yes, thanks for having me, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome back. Roth Cornet from ScreenJunkies News.
Hello, Spencer. I see you every day, but it's more exciting today.
It's more exciting when we're in this medieval times role play here. And Michele Boyd.
I don't get to see you nearly enough.
I know, we're back. Guys, as Daenerys said to the big table, shall we begin?
We shall.
Yes.
Let's jump right in, because there's so much to cover, and that begins with our top story of the dragon has landed. Daenerys, the mother of dragons, more recently the mother of dragon harass around Essos, not really doing much, has finally made landfall. Guys, she's on Dragonstone. How'd that make you feel to see?
Finally, the dragons get to take a nap.
Yeah, did they have a boat?
Did they have a dragon barge?
I think it was one of those things last season where you were wondering exactly, was she going to just go straight for King's Landing? And then when we saw the teasers, we knew that this is where she was headed. And I think that they were able to make it impactful by choosing to have the scene play out in silence.
Yeah. Now, Kyle, you can probably remind us why this is a big deal that this is Daenerys on Dragonstone.
Well, this is the ancestral home of the Targaryens. This is where they set up before he made conquest for all of Westeros. So before him and his sisters, Aegon and his sisters, went off.
Yeah, you never see it in the sun. It's always really gloomy there.
Winter is here, man.
You know what? A lot of people were complaining that it was empty. Look how gloomy and depressing that is. Why would you want to move in there?
Okay, I actually take issue with that. It was so empty. Like, they couldn't throw one, light Lannister garrison in there,
Dude,
or just, some brigands
left.
or something like that.
No. Think about what's happening in that world right now, right? Everybody is trying to maintain. First of all, everything is falling apart for most people.
Civil War Part 2.
Civil War Part 2. As far as they know, that this is a tiny little island that doesn't have a ton of resources.
It's got a castle. The words free castle in Game of Thrones are like free brothel. It's like, someone's going to go for it.
But then you got to deal with the heating bill and the internet. I mean, no one's around to actually pay for that anymore. And they actually do have a scene in King's Landing where Jamie's whole thing is how thinly they're stretched. They can't even feed their own troops in their own city.
We'll get to that later, but yeah, Ed Sheeran and the Band of Merry Men were going just because they heard some phrase might be dead. But you have an empty castle that can defend the whole east coast of Westeros. Nothing?
That's the only reason I do agree with that. Because they did set, if we hadn't had the scene where they were sending people to defend the phrase, which is like, okay, they're all dead anyway, what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
You're right. In that sense, they know she's coming. They know that's probably where she'll land. But unless they send the entire army, think about what she has with her.
It's easy to hold. Davos held it with, a barrel of onions. But regardless,
she has dragons.
She has dragons. And Unsullied.
She has the Dothraki army. She has.
We're getting way down in the minutia already.
Yeah.
I can tell it's going to be a theme.
Just begun.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but she ends the episode standing over the map that her great granddad, or I guess ancestor, carved.
Great grandfather.
A couple greats.
So
probably an uncle in there. I mean, there's a lot of incest.
Yeah, it gets a little blurry. So where do we think she's going to go first?
Well, that's the argument, isn't it? I think it's a question of they just want to go straight down to King's Landing and just start this war all over, or are we going to do something else?
Yeah, I'm really curious what part of her entourage there actually joined her, because did the Dornish break off, go back to Dorne to gather the rest of their troops, or they're there with them?
Yeah, so quick mini spoiler thing. Close your ears for 5 seconds.
Spoiler
if you don't want to see
scenes from the next
episode. 10 seconds, because of the preview, you do see Olenna, you see Ilaria with her in the, for lack of a better term, not throne room, what are we going to call it? The great map room?
Yeah, the map room,
the painted table room. The map room with her, kind of, that's her new small council. So they're there with her, and they're all kind of deciding what to do. They want to just go down and start storming King's Landing. They're like, we got all the men, we got all the ships, let's do this.
They've got dragons. Is it much of a decision? It seems like they're a little overpowered at this point.
Yeah.
Might not be.
That King's Landing is overpowered? That
No,
the
Dragonstone.
No,
Lannisters-
Dragonstone.
They've got dragons, they've got Dothraki, they've got an armada.
My real question is, look, you got Tyrion and Ilaria in the same room. Does he care that she killed Myrcella?
Yeah, but let's remember that Euron has 1,000 ships, right? And he's promised Cersei that he's going to bring her back a irreplaceable, a priceless present, right?
Gift.
And that to me could be a number of things, sure, but I think it's Tyrion.
That was
I
my
think
first
that's
thought
what
too.
he's going after.
That was my
I think
first
that's
thought.
probably too big of a thing to happen this season. I think
think
Tyrion
so?
is one of my all-time locks for making it to the end, and to have him just be lopped off to bring a gift to Cersei, like, no, we were
I don't
getting
think
a lot
he'll be
more.
dead.
Oh, you think that's just what he meant by it?
Yeah,
Okay.
he wouldn't bring a dead Tyrion to her because he would want her to have the opportunity to torture and kill Tyrion herself.
Well, and again,
they think alike.
Slight spoiler alert. What is it? The episode description for 3 or 4 that's come out says Cersei returns a gift.
Yeah.
So it might be something she
Interesting.
doesn't necessarily want. Because my second thought was like Dragonbinder from the books.
Sure.
Like
Okay,
he
yep.
goes out and finds
Yeah.
the magical horn that burns people alive from the inside that
Yeah.
can control a dragon. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty cool, but I wouldn't return that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd
before we
throw
go-
away that receipt.
Yeah. What about a dragon itself? I mean, could he go and
Tame
possibly
a
take
dragon?
one of these?
How to train your dragon?
This is a guy who's been all over the world. He's seen a lot of stuff that nobody else has seen.
He's seen a hot topic for sure.
Oh, we'll get to that.
What if he's seen some stuff? What if there is another dragon somewhere in the world? I know we've been told they're the last dragons, but they always kind of surprise us with random things. What if he knows there's another one somewhere? Or what if he knows, something
That
to
feels like a
bind
total
bind
Deus
one of the
Machina.
dragons, somewhere to equal the playing field? Because like you were saying, King's Dragonstone is a bit overpowered right now. How is King's Landing going to put up a fight at all?
Well, before we move on from Dragonstone, because there's a lot more to get through, I just want to touch on something maybe more meta, and that is Emilia Clarke a good actress?
I had that thought too. She does have this kind
She
of
is, like,
blank, vacant,
Dead-eyed. I expected a
thing.
little bit more emotion when she landed and when she walked into the throne room. I'm
Yeah.
getting nothing, and that could be read as like imperious powerfulness, or it could just be like she's a little outclassed by the show, as Terminator Genesis showed us.
I think she's doing a great job. Nothing that she's done has been taking me out of it or whatnot. This is her first acting gig right out of college, right? Or right out of
Maybe,
acting
yeah.
school.
Something like that, yeah.
And I think she's doing a fantastic job. I never go, you know what, her acting's so bad I'm not going to follow her. But
Fair enough.
I may want to have more, but it's not bad.
Okay.
Put it that.
I just think they
Sometimes-
might be out of stuff to do with her character at this point. She just kind of shows up at the end and stands and
Goes,
looks around.
dragons.
Sometimes I do. There was an image between her and Tyrion, and she was sort of just imperiously standing there as he appealed to her and said and professed that I've never believed in anything. I do believe in you. And it was one of those moments where I thought about like, how was she choosing to play that? You know what I mean? And it's so remote. And you could say that this is a woman that's been through so much trauma and she has armor upon armor, personality armor on herself. So maybe that's it. Kyle, Ice Dragon?
Ice Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say anything, but yeah, there might be an Ice Dragon around.
Like, does Euron maybe have an idea about that?
I would think if anybody does, he does.
Speaking of ice, we now journey to the north. Yes, the north. And another, some great acting, actually. Jon and Sansa. We reunite with them. And though it may be cold outside, there's some spiciness in their relationship. There's some tension between them now. Sansa kind of gets a little testy with them in a council meeting. How do we feel about that?
I loved it. I thought this was a really good example of the writing that I love from Game of Thrones, because you start out being completely on Sansa's side and you're like, yeah, absolutely. Of course take those castles away. Of course give them to our loyal bannermen. And then you've got kids. And then you have Jon call on kids. Ned Umber, by the way, nice choice in name, and Alice Karstark, which is cool because I missed her from the books. And and of course they come forward. Thank you. There it is. Yay!
Every time
you
someone
won.
quotes the books, we get a little bit.
We need a that's our Shane Bell.
Everyone gets one.
Oh crap. It was just nice because they're so instantly sympathetic, and of course then you kind of more side with Jon and the emotional side of it, and then later you go back to Sansa, and she has a very good argument of like, you can't always do what is right. You have to do what is best.
So who
That's
do you think
how
is
my
right?
brother and my father lost
The
their
Karstarks
heads.
and the Umbers were traitors, let's just say it, and they don't really get punished for it. Who's right in this situation? We do also need every living person, I assume, to fight ice zombies.
To be honest, like, look, this is how war is fought. I'm sorry, but when your bannermen turn against you, you get to take their castles. That's just how it is, no matter how cute the kids are. I understand where Jon is coming from, but, like, this is the way that war works, and this is the way you seal loyalty and you keep everything going.
Okay, but neither and both are right at this point, right?
That's what's so good about the writing.
Like
Exactly.
in Humanity, first of all, I understood her points, but it happens to be a huge pet peeve of mine to argue in front of people. I hate that. Take it somewhere else, come to a decision,
Not
and then
in
come
front of the
back.
kids,
Not in
Roth.
front of the kids, because it makes you look weak. And it makes you look disorganized, and that's going to make them doubt their leadership that they just now agreed to. So it's like do it in private, then come to a decision, and then come back with a clear decision. So that's where I think she screwed up. They're both right and they're both wrong, because you're right. They should be rewarding the people that have showed loyalty to show them that they should continue to do so. But at the same time, can they really afford to lose any men, any women at this point? Like, to Jon's point, they can't.
Absolutely. Well, the undermining speaks to Sansa's character a little bit, because she spent 5 seasons being silent next to Joffrey and next to Littlefinger, and girl ain't gonna be silent anymore. So I get it. It may not be like a good move, but I get it. I understand where she's coming from. It's still not the right thing to do, because undermining Jon in front of everyone is just not a good idea, but I get it. It speaks truly to her character.
Yeah, and I agree. They are both right in this situation. That's what's so beautiful about it. It's gray. It's not black and white, because they both have their eyes. They're quite literally being attacked from both sides. And one of them's got their eyes on the north, and one of them's got their eyes on this battle of the south. And they've got to protect themselves from both ways, but they're both thinking the other one is more important than the other. So they're both right. They just need to come together and figure out how to deal with a double-sided attack.
Different priorities. And
Quick,
speaking of...
quick mention of how Sansa's hair looks a lot like Cersei's hair from early seasons.
I didn't notice that.
And her kind of quoting a lot of Cersei-isms and kind of picking up what Cersei was putting down from earlier. So that's a little worrying.
I noticed that too. I feel like they were definitively having her mirror her.
They're
in this
very
episode.
deliberate
They're
with
very
those.
They said in almost the exact same line, I loved them, I love them, I miss them, but onwards, like, I am the prize, now it's about what we need, and they're both aiming for the same thing. Her hair is very similar. She
said she learned something, a thing or two from
her.
Cersei. What do we think she learned? Because that could be good or bad.
Well, she says it right there. She says anybody that's ever gone that's crossed Cersei, she has murdered, she has taken out. And that's a huge lesson. Like, you don't mess with them.
This was personal for her too. Part of the reason she wanted to take the castles away from the Karstarks and Umbers is because they allied with Ramsay, and anything to do with Ramsay, Sansa just sees red.
Yeah, F them. That's way
I'm
me,
kinda
actually.
with
It's
that.
like they
I
didn't just
kinda
betray
side
them.
with
They
Sansa
betrayed
on
them
that.
for Ramsay Bolton. Like, get out.
Yeah.
Flay them all.
Like, I'm sorry, the kids are cute, but I don't care.
Yeah.
She's also sort of representing the audience, though, in a way, in the sense of, like, she's having that conversation that we've all had about the Starks are moral and we love them for it. House Stark. But it's to their own detriment, right? And so I think that's the argument she's having, is like, the Lannisters don't care. They will do whatever it takes to win, and that's not what we have to do. We have to be smart. We have to not care about other people. We have to not care about the morality our dad taught us anymore. He tried to protect us, but he wasn't able to.
Yeah, but this war is different. This is everybody. We can't rely on the old way. It needs to be all hands on deck.
Yeah.
But there was also a moment in this scene that could be read as a little bit of fan servicey, or it could be something that you really love. And to answer that, speaking of fan service, let's get a fan on the phone and ask them.
Hello.
Hey, woohoo!
Hey, Jack Shipley.
How are you?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's so good to see you all again.
Great to see
too.
you, dude.
Hello.
I have a thing I really liked and a thing I didn't like so much about the episode. But real quick, to agree with Roth, I think that Sansa and Jon have the right idea, but her not talking to him before that meeting was the mistake that she made. But I think she's right in that he's not looking back at the political part. He's just looking at the White Walkers. And I think she has the right idea that he needs to consider all of the big picture. But
Fair point.
she shouldn't have interrupted him, because, that undermines him in that setting. So.
Jack, I have a question for you, buddy. How did you feel about the reappearance and reemergence of Lil Lyanna Mormont? How do you feel?
She's the greatest greatest.
You think she's okay?
Yeah.
I love her. I love her. I just wait every episode for her to stand up and just put a bunch of idiots in their place. She can, as long as she has that line every single episode, I'm happy. She's so awesome. That girl is awesome.
I'm waiting for
I
the
really like
Lyanna backlash, man. She's like the Jennifer Lawrence of
I worry.
Westeros.
So yeah, some of us had some
Worried.
misgivings. It felt a little bit like giving the people what they want a little too easily to me.
We'll see.
It's like kind of
I
a
still like her.
It doesn't always have to be her, right? Like someone else can have the smart thing that also needs to be said. But right now, I'm still okay with it being her because I love that girl and her sass.
You're still
Her
Team
performance.
Lyanna.
well.
Yeah, like she's just got a great performance.
If it is fan service, then you are one fan who has been serviced thoroughly. It sounds like.
Real quick, I just want to talk about one thing that I didn't like about the episode. We only have 7 episodes this season to get through. I think we didn't need, say, 10 minutes of boat, right? Because we got, hey, look, here's a boat in the water, and now here's a whole boat in the water, and now here's the front of the boat with the flags, and here's the back of the boat with a whole bunch more boats and some more flags, and it's like 10 minutes of, I mean, really what happened, the cold open is the most amazing thing that happened in this episode, and I think there was some, like the Sam scene, also very good, went on a little long. I think at this point, like, we've gotten through 7 seasons of this show. Like, it's time to start moving this story along and things need to happen. Like, the White Walkers needed to have done something. Give us a little bit more than just the beginning of the show.
That is a great question, Jack, and thanks again for calling, dude. I hope you keep calling in.
Thank you.
Jack.
I agree. I mean, there were a few slower moments, but at the
let's
same
be
time,
honest, there's always
it's the
filler.
first episode. Yeah, it's the first
There's always
episode.
a
Like, you
little bit.
can't keep getting clubbed over the head with fast-paced stuff the entire time. So I get it. I'm reserving judgment on that until like the second.
But the
second
shortened
episode.
season really raised my expectations for this, that there wouldn't be any filler, that they'd cut all the fat by removing some episodes. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything I would cut from this. Maybe you really didn't need Bran and the sled and Ed.
Well, but part of the enjoyment
That's
of Game of
huge.
Thrones
was a
is
big
these
moment.
giant sweeping shots. Like, I enjoy it. I love seeing the wall from far away.
Yeah.
I love seeing the boat, the steampunk boat that Euron apparently commissioned. Like,
And those are the most expensive shots.
Yeah.
A
you saw
little bit of dragon is a
Winterfell
lot
from overhead
of
that I've
budget.
never seen before. Like, that was
Yeah.
cool. I that's part of my enjoyment of the show. So I'd be sad if they started cutting all of that.
Yeah.
I think we're also anxious to see certain things play out, but then when I've gone back and watched episodes that I previously thought were just filler, I realized how rich they were and how much was actually happening. So we'll see. Can I say one thing about Jon and Sansa before we move on?
Sure, is it the incest threat level?
It's not.
It's pretty low at this
So
point.
let's check in on our incest threat, Jon Snow incest threat level, which is either his aunt or his cousin. I think that the Jon Snow incest threat level is both low and high in this episode. I'll tell you why. I think it's pretty low with Sansa because they're not getting along, but that could lead to some kind of hate, you know what? But I don't think it's going there. They don't seem to be forming a marriage alliance at this point. But at the same time, at the end of the episode, we are going to discover, he's going to find out that Daenerys has what he needs. And then they'll come to meet up. So I think that the incest threat level is at like 50%.
Sure.
But
Holding steady.
Sansa had a great line,
There
I
it
thought,
is,
with
right
Littlefinger.
I don't know if we
In
can
the
see
middle.
this. Incest threat level.
Incest threat level 50%.
Right there.
Yeah.
We need a better 3D graphic.
We do. We need to grab some graphics. She had such a great line with Littlefinger, which was no need to secure the last word. I'll assume it was clever, which has showed us like she's so hardened right now.
It was a sick burn, yeah.
It was a sick burn. But the
You
thing
need
is,
all of winter to cool that burn.
but she keeps talking to him and he keeps sort of like, he keeps egging her on, I think, and telling her, you're not happy, you're not getting what you need. And if we look at, I've brought up this theory before, like the direwolves to me represent how Stark they are. If your direwolf is alive, you're very Stark. That's why I never thought Arya would turn and be no name. Nymeria is alive, lost, but alive. She's still a Stark. Jon is still a Stark. Sansa's not been a Stark in a long time. As soon as she got to King's Landing, she turned, she abandoned the look of the North. She adopted their ways. I don't think she's really been a Stark in a long, long time, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did follow Cersei's path ultimately and maybe align with Littlefinger and betray Jon.
It's going to be interesting to
wow.
see what Littlefinger does, because he's been the one that's been literally conniving since like he was a child. So
Yeah.
I don't think we can discount him just yet and start marveling over how Sansa's handling him. I'm still a little scared of him.
Yeah.
Sure. So
That's-
yeah, she makes that comment like I know exactly what he wants.
Oh, yeah.
We know what that means at this table.
Yeah.
We're all adults here.
What do you mean?
Brienne's like, what?
I don't think that,
Do we think
she's-
that's Littlefinger's endgame? Is just he just wants
what
to
he
be up in
says.
some Stark?
Well, he
No,
said he wanted to
he
sit
wants
on the
the
Iron
throne
Throne
with her.
on his side.
That's
it.
what he wants. I don't think that she meant that at all. Like, oh, he wants some of this. I think she meant like he wants.
I thought that's
us-
exactly what she meant.
I didn't. I thought she meant he wants us to align to take the Iron Throne. He wants me to betray Jon. He wants me to be Queen of the North, and that we take the Iron Throne together. That's what he wants.
Interesting. So what moves are on the table for Littlefinger at this point? I'm kind of unclear on who needs who. I guess they both need each other because they're both comprising half an army. Is that the situation?
It's hard to see what other option he has, because what other house could he ally himself with? I mean,
Well, he could just hide in the
Danny.
veil, and he doesn't need to do anything.
He doesn't
really.
need to do anything. Yeah, but that wouldn't serve as endgame either.
Yeah.
Wait until everyone's dead and then come in and take over.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sure.
Fair enough. Again, Littlefinger is not the only side character who pops up. Brienne is still there. Brilliant Brienne, who pops in to say, I think Littlefinger might be up to something. Safe bet, Brienne. Safe bet.
I love her so much. She's my spirit animal.
Yeah.
She's a little off balance from her Tormund meeting. So
Oh my god.
Now, again, speaking of
Tormund.
fan service, I mean, I love it, but
Love
do
it.
we think this is really going anywhere, Brienne and Tormund?
God, I hope so. I'd
Yeah.
be so sad if it didn't. I mean, she's just so suspicious of any male attention, but I just want her to be happy, and he's so great.
it's leading to a sad moment at
Yeah,
Eastwatch by the Sea.
exactly.
is
I
what's
also
happening.
think that
Exactly.
if we were
Yeah.
taking a death poll, Tormund would be pretty
high up.
high on my list. He's a little too gung ho about going to the ice castle that's right in the path of the Zoe.
I think Tormund's greatest wish is to be Brienne's sub. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that wish is going to remain unfulfilled. Sadly for all of us.
sadly for
really.
all of us.
Yeah, but we do think that Brienne will stick around. And where do we see her arc going this season? If she's at Sansa's side, is she going to reunite with Jaime? How's she going to end up?
Good question.
It's a little early.
She's
It's
gonna
hard-
fight Jaime. I mean, potentially, because Sansa brings up the point that basically her only protection currently is Brienne, and we can't imagine that she's gonna stay entirely safe throughout the course of the season. So Brienne's gonna have to do some fighting for her,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised if it's with Jaime.
I guess it all depends on which way they turn. Are they going north or south? The north is still, or Winterfell is still under question. And speaking of the north, as I mentioned, Bran's in a sled, meets Dolorous Ed. I think that's all we need to say about it. Or is there
Trying
anything you
so
guys
hard
like
to be
add?
imposing
I
from
don't
a
care
sled.
about Bran. I never have
Don't
and never
care.
will.
This is a pretty important scene, though. I think this has
Yeah.
a lot of significance that they're not talking about because Bran still has that mark on his wrist or on his arm,
Yes.
Yeah.
which let the Night King into the
But does
the
it-
under tree,
yeah,
the
to the
Hobbit
tree.
hole.
The Keebler
and-
Elf Tree, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to imagine it's the same magic.
I just don't know. You would think there'd have been some kind of notice or like anything when he walked into the wall and like nothing happened. And Dolorous Ed just let them all in there. Which way to go, Ed? Ed's the one that brings down the wall.
Well, I think that's a smart. I think that's a smart choice to do it in a quiet way because if all of a sudden he came through the wall and it was like dun dun dun, you'd be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's a little too obvious, a little too heavy-footed there.
Yeah,
So
did I miss something? Because it seems like he really dodges Ed's question of like, how do I know you are who you say you are?
Yeah.
And like, you fought at the Fist of the First Men. Like, no, that didn't answer my question. How do I know who
let me
you
see your
are?
ID. Take out your driver's license. Let's do that.
Yeah, that took a little suspension of disbelief, I think. He didn't quite answer the question, but he said a thing that convinced him to be like, all right, I guess come in.
I thought it was funny. It was Ed's reaction is just like, okay, dude, you're totally freaking me out. Come on in.
Come on in.
But at the same time, Dolorous Ed is used to dealing with Starks that, do magical things like come back to life. So
Sure.
if he bumps into another Stark, he's like, God, you guys are really weird.
So weird.
But I think that your point, Kyle, and you were making the point that the mark on his arm allowed them to break the magic, that it's possible that this will be part of what helps them get through the wall and across the wall and or bring the entire wall down, which was basally foreshadowed like
It's
3 or
alluded
4
to
times.
a few times. Yeah. We'll get
And
to that soon.
one last note on Bran and the sled Bran is it's probably too complicated for them to address in the show, but is there any concern that he's actually the heir to Winterfell? He's a more legitimate heir than Jon? Do
doubt
we
it.
see that playing out, that they might hand over the reins to him?
I doubt it because I think at this point it's assumed that he can't have children. I mean, granted, he's a little young, but like if you can't
Well,
carry
I guess
on the
you're right.
line, and it doesn't matter, you know, Jon's been declared king in the north, and Bran can't fight, he can't have kids, and I think he's just happy to put his hand on a tree until the end of time.
I think that by the time that they even know he's alive, it'll be too late for Winterfell or any other throne to matter.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
also, he doesn't seem that interested in it.
Nah.
No.
He's more into,
He's like his tree and stuff.
Yeah, he's got some different callings going on there. It's just like Maester Aemon, you know, he could have been king, and he's like, I got to do this Maester thing.
Speaking of callings, let's take another call when we have one. Caller, who you are, where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hi,
Hey there.
I'm Derek from Philadelphia.
Hi, Derek.
Hi.
What's going on, Derek? What'd you think about the episode?
I loved it. The opening was my favorite part, though.
Yes.
And my theory for what Euron is going to bring Cersei is whatever Jorah used to teleport to the Citadel.
We'll get to that. I mean, the time travel jetpacks are rife. And just a quick thing about that, I'm not going to care about that this season.
No.
It's just, there's so many things. Fine. They bounce around from one end of the continent to the other. Fine. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I got you. I understand. Meanwhile,
the time frame is a little muddled at
it's
this
a little
point.
wonky.
Yeah.
I've always assumed that the time frames were moving at the same rate. That in different locations, that the time frame was moving at different rates than other locations.
Yeah, kind of like the books, actually,
Yeah.
when they split up for 4 and 5. Did you have a question for us?
Oh, well, just with that, although who would give him a ride? Like, who would have this grace
Thank you, caller. That's an awesome question. Thanks for calling in. But
Thanks, Derek.
my guess is Gendry.
Yeah, right.
Oh!
I think he rowed his boat all the way to Old
Just
Town.
put on a giant body condom and was like, you sit on that side of the boat.
That's great. So we're not going to Old Town quite yet. First, we're making a stop in King's Landing. He mentioned we've touched on Euron Greyjoy. I want to touch on his makeover.
Oh my God. As the new lead singer of My Chemical Romance?
He really cleaned up. Interestingly, I don't know where he got leather pants in Westeros, but he got them, man. He just, if you can bring up a photo of him from last year. Do we have like the old with him with the driftwood crown and he's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He lost some weight.
He's got, like,
he,
some freshman
trimmed his
15.
beard. I'm still
Oh,
a little,
yeah.
I'm still a little mad he has both eyes. That's just
Yeah,
like,
how hard is it to
Ironborn.
throw an eye patch on a pirate?
You know what? Beric has taken that, so
Yeah,
Beric
yeah.
Beric
That's
can keep
true.
that one
I
I
eye
think
patch
they
on.
didn't want to confuse
don't
anybody.
want to mix up the eye patch, guys.
Visually.
All
Exactly.
right.
That's a great
A little
point.
bit too piratey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can never go full pirate.
But I
Don't go full pirate.
I think that's it. They didn't want to confuse the audience
Yeah.
about which eye patch was which.
Great. Put on the other eye. Nobody will ever will know the difference.
That's fair. Yeah, he does come in like the singer for My Chemical Romance, and he
Yeah.
makes a marriage proposal and a promise of a gift to Cersei, which we sort of touched on. But you know who else is in the room is Jaime Lannister, and I think this was a bit of maybe a lost story thread, or maybe they thought it would be too confusing. But Jaime's really back to where he started. I thought we spent so much time last season of him reforming, and then his biggest character moment is when he's the Kingslayer, when he stabbed a mad king in the back, and he just saw his sister, his love, go mad and blow everyone up, which is what he tried to stop many years ago. And he's just like, Team Cersei.
He had the moment with her in the, again, map room, Tale of Two Maps right there, but with, should I be afraid of you? And no, I'm not angry with you. And we're like, why not?
Yeah, he still seems reticent about it. I don't think he's completely on board with all this yet.
Reserving judgment.
Absolutely.
So there's the theory, and I know where Michelle stands on this, and we're in agreement, that Jaime is actually going to have to ultimately, there's the prophecy that her little brother kills her, and he is her little brother technically, so that Jaime is ultimately going to have to do the same thing again and realize they've got a totally mad ruler who's willing to burn everyone and kill his sister, probably kill himself at the same time. Or will it be like in the books that
There's your one.
he just becomes his own man and he's like, I'm done with you.
Yeah, but it seems
No.
like his redemptive arc has kind of been paused. It seemed like he was getting better. He was learning some humility and some chivalry, and now he's like, don't bone my sister. That's my job.
Pretty much. He was just concerned with like firing back at Euron, making hand jokes.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe the Hound is kind of taking his spot as the crappy guy who's learning to be good for us.
Although the Hound
That's a
doesn't not have that arc potentially if he's the gravedigger.
I will go with that theory.
Or Azor Ahai, or who knows.
Quick thing,
Yeah.
wait, before
Now we're
we
talking.
actually leave King's Landing, there was one small little thing I noticed. So behind Cersei in the throne room, she's got a Lannister lion now on that wall behind her. And I don't think we have a clip of it, but if you go back to Dany's prophecy where she's walking through the throne room and it's all broken and there's ash or snow falling through it, there was a 7-pointed star behind her. Yes, these are the things I look for.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I thought that was interesting because maybe that means the prophecy doesn't actually come true, or it was like a vision of the past instead of the future for her. Yeah,
look at
so you
that.
see the lion
Interesting.
behind her in the throne room there, and that's not what we see when Dany walks through. So I
she's
don't know
just
how
not-
that's going to change.
I like she's dropped all pretense of being a Baratheon.
Totally. She's like,
She's
she's like, no, Lannister country, this is it.
So we just saw in that picture, and since we're noting stuff like nitpicky here, I want everybody to kind of note Gregor Clegane's the shape of his helmet,
Oh, perhaps.
and we might get back to that a little bit later.
I liked Qyburn being next to the throne too. He didn't say anything, but he was kind of cool, just standing there being all maestery.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Look at his
So
new armor here.
does that call all prophecy, all visions into question?
It could have been a vision of the past, maybe, instead of the future. It's. I mean, that gets into the whole philosophy thing of is everything actually predetermined and is Bran actually time traveling or is
Oh,
he changing
God.
things? And let's not even go there.
We can go there when we get back to the fire scenes,
I
but
want to go there.
we'll get there, Roth.
That's
We'll get
exactly
there.
where I want to go.
But before we leave King's Landing, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jaime and Cersei and just what's their long game. I mean, they are, as she says, surrounded on all sides by enemies. And is that enough to just have another crazy pirate with some ships on their side? Or she said she learned some things from Tywin. What's her long game here? What allies could they possibly have?
I have no idea how she's going to do this. Somehow Greyjoy showed up with the largest fleet that Westeros has ever seen, even though there's no trees on the Iron Islands.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's going to be enough. There's so much against them. I have no idea what she's going to do, and I'm actually very interested to see what her plan is. But right now, I'm not sure.
I have a guess.
Go on. Machinations?
Go on.
Various machinations. Oh.
This is what I think. I think they're going to start to. It's a long game, and it may not work, but sow the seeds of doubt, basically among the people about Dany's ability to rule, and then just keep reminding them of the Mad King and how dangerous he was, and that's her bloodline, and that if the threat of the White Walkers starts coming through, blame her. Be like, well, they came when she came.
Is she gonna blame
Fire
the
brought
Sept of
eyes.
Baelor on Dany
No,
too?
I mean,
and just go full Trump on this and be like, it was Dany's fault. Blame Dany.
Political
Fake news.
political propaganda, and also I would imagine that look. All of these houses are almost all dead, right? We've got the Lady Olenna to deal with, but if she's dead, then who speaks for that? Who speaks for the Tyrells? You know, she could be trying to make alliances behind the backs of these people.
She's also got to be broke at this point without the
Bro,
Tyrells
completely.
in such
She
debt.
never paid back the Iron Bank.
Yeah.
Like she still owes them a lot of money. I don't know. Personally, I just think she's delusional at this point.
Yeah, she's delusional, but I think what she has in her favor is that other people arrayed against her are generally good people. Like Jon and Daenerys, they'll probably, I'm guessing, given the choice between stopping the Unstoppable Ice Army and stopping Cersei, they'll go north and they'll probably defend the whole realm, which leaves her an opening. If everyone's attention is up at the wall, she can now grow her kingdom without meeting much resistance. I think that's the only thing she has in her favor is to distract people. But how much does she even know about what's going on up north?
I mean, she was
I don't
told,
think
but
she
I don't
knows.
think she cares.
Yeah. So
Essentially.
I think that's her only opening at this point. Let's take another call if we have one.
Yo,
Yo, what's up, man?
pretty good. So,
what's your name?
speaking about hipster pirate Euron Greyjoy, I was thinking, what are you guys' theories on his gift? Because people are probably saying it's either going to be a dragon horn, Gendry, the head of the Sand Snakes, or Tyrion.
No
What do
one
you guys
cares
think?
about Gendry.
I care. I care about Gendry. I care about shirtless sweat. Just regular Gendry. I mean,
Gendry wouldn't do her any good. I mean, she'd immediately kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's rejecting the gift.
That's possible. Actually, that's a good theory. Because,
Oh.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he may think that it matters to her with Gendry being technically like the last Baratheon, but yeah,
She
I
would just
imagine
immediately
they're
kill
they'd be
him.
like, I don't care. I'm queen already. What do
No.
I care?
I will now murder you.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So,
Yeah, I
that's
guess
a possibility.
just pulling back in like a meta sense of how much time we have left, I don't think it's going to be Tyrion. And I because if it was, she would immediately kill him. And he's not. He's going to stick around. And I think it's probably most likely the Sand Snakes, someone who's defied her that, you know, she might end up teaming up with, because I feel like they have a lot in common.
No one cares about the sand snakes anymore.
Love it.
Should I read a tweet?
Yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
Hashtag Watching Thrones.
Donnell says that the scene with Ed, Sharon hinted with the song, which we'll talk about later, that there's discord in the Lannister ranks, which is a really great point. And then also...
Yes, we will definitely talk about the song.
Taxic, I'm so sorry, I'm trying, man. Says to you, Spencer, to Bran is the heir of Winterfell by right, but he can renounce it if he wants.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
I can see him
Problem
doing that.
solved.
Yeah.
He'd rather sled around.
Keep on.
On sledding.
Ho, Mira, go.
Caller, thank you so much for your question. We are now going on to the Riverlands. We have had a lot of talk of Arya and we'll get to Ed Sheeran's big ginger mug. But first, we want to talk about the opening scene of the episode and just like the best feeling I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Was
So
even though
happy.
the more you think about it, the more questions you have. But forget that. It was great to watch her poison an entire room full of Freys.
Yeah. What are we calling that?
Satisfying? I don't know what you mean.
The red wedding.
The big roofie.
Okay.
Yeah, the big roofie.
There you go. The roofie toast. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. So
That was great.
that's Arya right there.
I'm calling
if you
it
believe
just
it.
desserts.
There you
Just
go.
Which
dessert.
well
Oh,
played
okay.
acting wise, just to kind of the difference between playing him as like a bitter Walder Frey and kind of Arya's little glee about poisoning everyone. Oh, it was so great. One main thing I really liked about the scene was it did point out that she's not just indiscriminately killing. She saves the wife, she saves the girls, like she's still choosing her targets,
Yeah.
which
She's
is
got
nice.
a list, but the list kind of grows or shrinks depending on
A little bit. But she's not just like, you're all here, I'm just gonna kill all of you.
Yeah.
So she's still got some humanity left in her, which I find hopeful.
She has some Starkiness, but she's managed to evolve and adjust that moral code to the realities that she finds herself in.
So you still feel good about rooting for her, even though she's a mass murderer.
It's
Definitely.
pretty terrible to root for a mass murderer, but this is the Game of Thrones.
Who
Spencer.
isn't a mass murderer,
That's a short
sir?
list. You're right.
I felt good. It felt good. I loved it.
Felt so good.
I think
Yeah.
Maisie Williams said it in an interview somewhere else that she's like, I wonder how much I'm going to be able to get away with before the fans start turning on me. And
lot.
I'm curious the same thing. Yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
I like that they mirrored Sansa's walk away from Ramsay from last season with Maisie Williams walking away and kind of doing the little smile.
Yeah.
That
It's
was,
a fair point,
that was
though,
nice.
that she has been so violent and killed so many people. Do we think that I didn't think this before, but maybe Arya's got some retribution coming to her. Like, this is kind of a live by the sword, die by the sword thing. I can't see her finishing her list and being like, well, all right, time to go back to horse riding.
That's not how this world works. I mean, this
Yeah.
world doesn't really work like live by the sword. It's not that clean, you know? The people that don't deserve redemption often get it, that don't deserve a second chance, they often get it. People that do and that have lived well often die badly. I don't think it works that way, so if it did work that way for Arya, that wouldn't really make a ton of sense for this series. We'll talk about this later. She
Yeah.
also had one of my favorite lines in the series in
was
that
fun.
moment.
My continuing theory with Arya is that she's like the operative from Serenity. Like she's creating a better world, but she has no place in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That she's just the spirit of vengeance, and once that
Like-
spirit is done, there's no other story for her.
She's Stoneheart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Do I get punished?
I've got a question for a caller if we can bring one up. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi.
I'm Emily. I'm from New Jersey.
Hi, Emily.
Oh, what's
How's it
up,
going?
East Coast?
I was wondering to you, did Arya becoming Walder Frey, did that track to you, or were you like, wait a second, how did she impersonate this old man down to the jokes and the body language?
I was really confused because I thought she killed Frey like a while ago, so how did they not know he was dead?
Right. He
And
had
it
to, like,
probably took a minute to get all
Again.
these lords assembled.
Timeline.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Make some more pies.
did she plan this immediately after killing him?
Right, yeah, did she decide to stick around and like, I could probably tag off a few more if I called another feast together?
I think
draw out the invites.
this is a case of a reverse jetpack. We don't know how long she's been at that castle watching Walder Frey and getting everything together. So I mean, she could have been there for weeks for all we know. I mean, the last time we saw her, what was it? There was Jaime and Bronn were still there.
Yeah.
So I think she's been there a lot longer than we think she has.
Exactly. People were asking how she could imitate him. Well, she was imitating the maid who nobody would notice, and she could have just been observing his behavior.
Exactly.
You know, she's trained assassin. Like, she wouldn't just make her move right away with no plan. And there's obviously, again, some time has elapsed between the time she minced up his sons, killed him, and then called this new feast.
Yeah, I don't like that we have to go back and justify this, because I think they had an opportunity to explain how all this worked last season when she was in training with the Faceless Men.
And watching that insurance guy, like that's the part of the training is to watch and imitate and know their habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They did explain it last season.
So Emily, you're not happy with it?
I mean, I just wanted to talk about my favorite quote of the entire episode was Clegane saying, "It's my fucking luck I end up with a band of firelords."
Dramatic irony indeed.
The Hound had so many good moments this episode.
Really
Thank you so much for calling in, Emily. Appreciate it. But
Bye.
before we leave Arya behind, she ran into some other people. Pop sensation Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Because
Now,
why not?
This was a little distracting to some, and others were defending it. Where do you guys stand on House Sheeran?
I don't care.
End of House Sheeran.
Do not care at all. What do you guys think?
So I think they did this as a surprise for her. Like,
Sure.
She's a huge fan, so they really did it for her. But here's my concern with this, is that a couple of times now we've run into a group of people that are supposed to represent the everyman in this world, and the fact of how the average citizen is getting impacted by these huge wars, right? And that they matter, and that they're human, and that just because they're Lannisters, they're not evil. And all of this to make it count that they either die, like in the Hound's case, or that she lets them live, because presumptively she was planning to kill them when she first ran into Lannister soldiers, right? But she let them live because they're not bad people. But each time we have huge stars here, and then either Ian McShane, to tell us that it matters that they live or die. So that's kind of like undercutting your point to me. Like, it should matter that they live or die because they're human, and it matters that they live or die. Does that make any sense?
Not because it's Ed Sheeran.
Not because it's Ed Sheeran.
But he does matter more than us.
Well,
I mean, he's better than us.
yeah, no, I mean,
obviously.
absolutely. I'm not arguing that point, Spencer.
I just think it was a little heavy-handed to be like, okay, you could not find a more band of like likable people than these guys, and you know, it's like, oh, my wife just had a kid, and I don't even know if it's a boy or girl, and we're just here, and I made you some blackberry wine. Like,
well, I think they made a smart decision in not making him the focus of that scene. He's singing and everything, but then when Arya gets over there, it's the other character,
there's some
and the guy who
lingering
made the
shots of
wine.
him.
And yeah, he's in the background because he's there. There's only 5 people there, 6 people there, but it's all about the guy who just had the kid, the other guy who makes the wine, and Arya. It's not about Ed Sheeran, the whole scene.
Do you want to talk about the song?
The song?
Hands of Gold?
Let's talk about the
was that
song.
Simon Silvertongue?
Yeah, Simon
from the
Silvertongue's
books?
song.
What was Spencer going to say? You were going to say
There you go. You get yours.
I was just going to say, I don't want celebrity cameos at all, or certainly not ones that rise above a certain threshold, because it just breaks the immersion for me. I'm thinking, oh, that's so-and-so. I did miss, like, the Sigur Rós one. Like, that flew under the radar. They're the band at Joffrey's wedding. And, like, that's the right kind. You need to be obscure and Icelandic to score a cameo.
I
on this.
totally
Not,
agree.
like, because Benioff wants you to play his kid's bar mitzvah or something like that. He was too big of a star.
I completely
I
agree.
agree.
And just out of it, like, he's not an actor. He's a musician. Maybe I get they were trying to
did
blend the
fine.
worlds.
Have you not seen his music videos?
Do you guys
No.
have any cameos that you make an exception for?
No.
Anyone dropping in?
No.
Okay.
I just
don't
want
count
Tom
Ian
Cruise
McShane as
running
that.
across Westeros. That's how everybody gets everywhere so fast. Tom Cruise puts him on his back and he just runs.
Oh, I love it.
Katy Perry is the latest brothel madam. Sure.
Yeah, all right, now we're talking. You were going to say something about the song you were singing, Hands of Gold.
Oh, the song. Well, no, Kyle, please,
Yeah.
book reader.
Oh my gosh! So you guys are gonna have to refresh me a little bit. I get things mixed up here, but this was Tyrion was going into one of the brothels or whatnot, and there was a
So it was a song that the lyrics were about him and Shay. And so he is, one of the lines from the song he actually is saying to her as he's doing the murder.
Yes, because it's good to know
Then I'll pull
note
it up. Hold on.
that in the books, The hand is a necklace
Yes.
of
Yes.
gold hands that interlock, and not just a pin that goes on you. So that's what the song
Yeah.
was
The
referring
song was
to.
about him.
I think the show does
hands
better.
of
That
gold are
seems
always
very
cold.
hands across America.
Well, it's kind of like the
Little bit.
Maesters have the chain here,
Yeah.
but the hand has a
Helping
chain
hands.
of hands.
It was
Yeah.
a nice nod to the book readers.
But it's
I did
basically
enjoy it.
like being in love with a woman, right? And like she's more like the woman's love is more important than gold, la 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 la. And hands of gold. Well, who has a gold hand in this? Who's a Lannister that has a gold hand that is in love with a woman?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's Jaime Lannister's music.
Jaime Lannister music. I feel like they're just like hinting at like there is dissent between the Lannisters.
It was nice to tie all of that together.
Fun Easter
Yeah,
egg.
that was nice. That's true.
Let's not leave the Riverlands quite yet because we have some other people trudging around there. We've got the Hound and the Brotherhood. They are still chomping around. Remind me, where are they headed? Where are they going?
They're going north.
They're going
Yeah.
north.
The
north.
Brotherhood
North.
Without Banners have decided that their true calling is to fight the White Walkers and fight the evil going in the north, so that's the way that they're headed. And after Ian McShane's demise, Hound decides to meet up with them and go their way.
So yeah, is the Hound? This is the question I want to pose. Is he a changed man at this point? Has he fully grown out of the Hound we used to know and love, who didn't give a shit about anybody?
I think
the
that hound
intention
is
is there.
I think that hound is still sticking down there. Like if he gets into a fight or whatnot, we're going to see the old hound. But yeah, I think he's trying to push it down. I think he's trying to subdue it, trying to change. But we know how
I
much
think
change
he's trying to do the right
sticks
thing.
around.
And again, a little heavy-handed to bring us back to the season 4 cabin of the farmer and his daughter that he stole from.
Which
and
I would not have gotten if
kinda-
they hadn't replayed at the
It's the
scenes from last
previously
season.
on. Yeah, thank
missed
you for
that.
that callback. I definitely appreciate. It's almost a spoiler for the episode when you watch the previously on because you're just like, oh, well, that's gonna come back around again. Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it did enable us to get to. I know your favorite moment with the Hound of him digging graves.
In the book, Sting, the Hound has a great scene as the gravedigger, and we'll get to this in our finale for Raging Throne.
So
which
we
we'll talk
think.
about that in a little bit.
He also had one of the better lines of the night. Like,
So many
why
sassy
are you all
lines.
so glum? Experience.
Experience.
But is he fully converted to the Lord of Light, you think? After
Has he found religion?
his vision?
He goes he saw the flames and he's a
Yeah.
believer. He goes really quick into believing, or does he? I mean, I thought that was an interesting choice that he gets the visions.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do
Well-
you think he's a believer?
I guess he is, and the Lord of Light clearly works in mysterious ways, which they talk about. Dondarrion is like, I don't know why they picked me.
Yeah.
They have kind of this whole talk about how it doesn't need to be particularly these special men who get chosen to do great things. And that gives maybe some credence to is the Hound Azor Ahai about to be reborn with a flaming
Ooh,
sword?
I was looking at that theory last night.
Wow, I didn't see that
'Cause
theory
Beric-
yet.
well,
Yeah.
But the thing is, Beric has Lightbringer, which he could be just his whole purpose could be to get it to Jon. But the other thing is that George R. R. Martin in an interview sort of let slip that Beric basically acts as foreshadowing to let you know that he's becoming less and less and less himself the more times he's resurrected. He's like a fire white. And Jon, the question is like, is Jon the same thing? Because if you think about what Jon Snow is in this world, he is ice and fire. He is Targaryen. He is Stark. He is dead. He is alive. If this is a war between, he's fire and ice at the same time. If this is a war between the living and the dead, where does he land in that?
He's the embodiment.
He's
of
in
all
the
of
embodiment
those.
of the entire
It's tough
season.
for him to get more distant and mopey than he already is. I'm not really seeing it as far as the performance goes.
I'm curious, like Beric and Thoros have had to seen some major stuff because all of a sudden the Hound starts seeing visions or whatnot. Nobody cares. It's like somebody just.
Beric looked like he cared.
Do you
Yeah,
really
he
think
looked-
so?
yeah.
He was just kind of like.
He almost looked hurt.
It's like, really, this
Yeah.
guy? Come on.
Really? Okay, all right. I must have missed Beric's reaction, but it
Why do you
seemed
get
like.
the visions now?
Yeah.
And let's talk
Mommy,
about
Daddy
what the
doesn't love
vision
me
was.
anymore.
Yeah, let's talk about the specifics
Yes,
of the vision.
please.
He sees a
Yes.
castle where the wall meets the sea, something about some arrowheads, and the dead are marching, obviously
Eastwatch
foreshadowing.
by the
Eastwatch by the
sea.
sea.
Eastwatch.
Yeah.
Yes.
There,
So-
and the dead marching past.
Marching
Meaning
past.
It goes past the wall. Could we get any more foreshadowing of the wall falling down? He's like, I
No.
see the wall. Log falls,
Yeah.
sparks
Yeah.
fly. Like, oh, okay, thanks.
And meanwhile, the Citadel, it's like, oh, the world's not going to end.
That's how I knew the wall was
will
going
stand.
down when the
Of
master's
course
like,
it's going down.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. The wall will still
Absolutely.
be there. The wall's gone.
The
All
wall
right.
is totally gone. And the Arrow Mountain, I do
Yeah,
wonder,
how
is
we
that-
got to talk about the
is
mountain
that dragon glass? Is he actually referring to?
Or is a mountain shaped like an arrowhead an allusion to the mountain's new armor?
Interesting theory.
There's, I'm split. I'm very split on it being a actual literal mountain that he just sees that the dead are walking past, and you could just simply take it as that's the literal thing he's seeing. Or is it the Lord of Light? Or is it another case of him interpreting things he's seeing wrong, like Melisandre did?
Or is it a different mountain? I was thinking like maybe he was seeing the dead like in Bran's vision, right? And then he was also seeing the mountain that's actually hiding all of the dragon glass
under
Dragonstone.
So
it's like the answer to he's given the problem and the answer in one vision.
Interesting. All this theorizing makes me want to go to the Citadel.
Nice transition.
Yeah, and can we get a caller because I have a very important question for them.
God. Hello?
Hey caller, where are you calling from? What's your name?
Eric from Philly.
Hi,
Hey
Eric.
man. So what's the difference between stew and poop? It's slight, right? Is it a big difference or a little difference?
Pretty big difference.
How do you feel about the big musical number, almost montage of Sam's life at the Citadel?
Which, if you play backwards, is a Pink Floyd song.
His stuff at the Citadel, though, even though it was gross, it was some of my favorite stuff in the episode. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh god,
it was hilarious.
Yeah, and I think it was awesome. I really loved. I wish they had done this with Arya and the Faceless Men instead of doing a whole season of that. Like, I got it. I got what he was there to do, and the gruelingness of the routine. I thought that was a brilliant way to get that across.
But Sam being the comic figure, it makes
always
sense.
being shit on. That he is
God.
literally being shit on now.
He's just always the student, never the master.
Someone make a techno remix of
Someone
this.
is making 10 people are making that remix on YouTube right now. I guarantee it's there already.
I'm so disturbed.
So much fluid.
I have a question.
Do tell.
Did you catch in the book that when Sam was going through the book that Catfall, the Valyrian dagger that was used to kill Bran, was in the book?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did want to talk about that because I'm that person who went back and paused on the pages to try to and squinted at them to try to read. On the page with the cat's paw dagger, really all the words are saying is just talking about how people were using dragon glass as ornamentation for their daggers.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, I wish it had been more than this, but cool enough, all it really means is that dragon glass dagger's really freaking old.
Yeah, because
Thank you for your question, Eric, by the way.
But I totally saw that. Thank you.
Arya's got that knife.
Is that who? Yeah, I know she has it in the promo pictures for the season, but have we established? I was looking for it. Have we established that in the show?
We haven't
yet?
established in the show yet, but in the promo pictures, Joanna Robinson of Vanity Fair pointed out she's got it.
She's got that dagger.
What do you think?
that's going to be awesome. Yeah, I saw the promo picture as well, and so she's definitely going to get it at some point. I'm curious. I don't know exactly where it is right now.
I'm not sure either.
But
I know Ned had it at one point.
There you go.
Littlefinger.
Sure where it went.
And that was
Littlefinger.
it was Valyrian steel and dragon bone.
Dragon bone. The
Yes.
handle was made out of dragon bone. I don't remember, but lots of
Valyrian
dragons
steel.
in that. Yeah, and it was Valyrian steel dagger.
Littlefinger lied and said that
what?
Tyrion. I mean, he said that Tyrion won it, right?
Yeah.
So the question still is, we still don't entirely know, and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, we don't entirely know who actually sent that assassin to kill Bran, because this is the knife that the assassin was using to kill Bran. So it's possible that Littlefinger lied and he still got it.
It was implied
But then
that it was
on
Joffrey.
It was on Ned's desk.
Yeah, that Ned had it at
the last time we
end.
saw it is that Ned had it.
I know there was a photo of Ned having it in King's Landing.
Yeah.
It was implied that Joffrey was the one who sent.
Joffrey makes no sense. Like, why would he send somebody to cover up his parents having sex?
Because it wasn't. No,
sorry.
No. It wasn't. It wasn't
Wouldn't
that. He sent to kill him because he's crippled, and he overheard Robert saying that someone should just put that boy out of his misery. So it was like one of his last things of trying to impress his father.
So this was the big.
Okay, it wasn't to cover up the incest.
The big revelation from
that.
this episode was Sam's discovery that dragonglass, there's a big lump of it under King's Landing.
Yes.
And, we might be a little sketchy on the details of what...
You mean
I'm sorry, King's Landing, Dragonstone. Yeah. Which we already knew because we've already been told by Stannis, but that's fine. That's fine. That's what counts for revelation in episode 1. But to give us
all of it.
even more information about it, we have a little segment we like to call the Maester's Lesson, and our own resident Maester, chainless though she may be, is going to teach us a little bit about dragonglass.
So far, I don't like sleeping with a chain. Sorry. So this is basically going to be a little bit about kind of Dragonstone and Dragonglass itself. Dragonstone, we've mentioned it before. It's Dany's ancestral home. This is where Aegon's actual grandfather landed before the doom of Valyria, because it was prophesied that Valyria was going to fall. So they were already there before Aegon decided to go all conquery and take over Westeros. Basically, after the conquest, Aegon split his time between King's Landing and Dragonstone. You got a really nice shot of that great table in the room where Dany is kind of taking her small council now. That table was commissioned by Aegon to show all of the kingdoms without any borders, without any walls, just kind of showing his entire dominion. So that table's over 300 years old. It's nice to just get it back in the family. And like Spencer said, as far as the Dragonglass is concerned, we did know this back in, I think, season 5, when Stannis told Sam about the Dragonglass underneath Dragonstone before Sam decided to find the same information in Hogwarts restricted section. But
shout out to Professor Slughorn.
Totally. But considering it's, the only weapon that we've seen that can kill a White Walker besides Valyrian steel, Dany's forces better start making like Snow White's dwarves and get to work down there. And it's going to be good because now that Sam has notified Jon of the fact that there is all this Dragonglass underneath Dragonstone, that might be what starts bringing Jon down to borrow a cup of Dragonglass from his little southern neighbor.
Ooh.
And then they're going to take Tyrion's advice. They're going to hit it. I have bad news.
Incest threat level rising. Yes, Roth.
Yes.
I have bad news for you, Spencer.
What's up?
Again, from Donnell, there is a rumored Conor McGregor cameo coming up. Is that
not
smart?
necessary?
Well,
Unless he's like a troll or something like that. He'd actually be a good troll.
and Robert Moore says that he's Euron's going to bring Illyria Sand, because Tyrion's too tall of an order.
Oh.
Wow. Nicely played.
Wow.
As Tyrion said, the same 5 or 6 jokes just over and over
pun
again.
there.
We love you. Thank you for watching.
Yay, dad jokes!
We may not love the show and what people have to say unconditionally, but there are some things that we really do like, that we like to signal out at the end of every episode, which brings us to the inaugural segment, which we like to call Raging Throners. This is where we each pick our absolute favorite moment of the episode. And I'm going to start with you, Kyle.
I love the silent arrival at Dragonstone. For a lot of talk about nothing happening this episode, we have the moment we've been waiting for so damn long, as Daenerys arrives in Westeros. And I thought it was beautiful that she just showed up. It was silent. They gave her moment and everything. And this was such a big deal. And it's so huge in the show. And to have it be a quiet moment, I think, was awesome. It was raging.
Roth, what do you got?
Mine was definitely just the line from Arya. I don't know why, I just love this line. Winter just came for the phrase. It's just so Arya and badass and awesome. Like, winter just came for you. I like it.
Michelle, what gives you the most Raging Throners?
The scene between Sansa and Jon going back and forth, and again, just the writing between the two, playing on your emotions and the vulnerabilities of both, and you're just not knowing which side to come down on.
Solid. Now for me, I'm going to get my bell ready. It's when the Hound is digging graves, because that is an allusion to the gravedigger scene in the books, where it prompts one of my favorite speeches about what it means to Brienne to be a broken man. It's brilliant. You should look it up if you haven't read the books, because it's really good. Even better than the show. That is my Raging Throner. And guys, we have to wrap it up here, but I want to hear from you. Hit us up on Twitter, hashtag Watching Thrones, maybe even hashtag Raging Throner for your favorite parts. And you got to come back, because we'll be doing this every Monday morning, 11 a.m., right here on Screen Junkies News for 7 long weeks. Can't wait. Thank you so much again for joining us, Kyle.
Thank you so much for having me,
And
guys.
remind us where we can find you, the Podcast of Ice
You
and
can find
Fire.
me at Podcast of Ice and Fire or at Kyle Maddock on Twitter.
Nice.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for filling that 4th seat. Roth?
I am at Roth Cornet on Twitter. I'm on SJ News pretty frequently all
We're
the time.
about to be there all the time.
I'm going to give us all one thought to think about from Renzo on Twitter. The book also mentions that Dragonglass could be used to cure diseases. Could this be where Jorah gets some help?
Just slice that arm off.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Michele Boyd, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, as always. You can find me at Michele Boyd on all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and I will be at Comic-Con this upcoming weekend as
With
well
us.
with you guys.
Doing it. We'll be covering the Game of Thrones panel.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, Game of
much
Thrones
work.
panel. So, if you're down in San Diego, come say hi.
Definitely come say hi. Come to Screen Junkie Central if you can, and follow me on Twitter at Spencer J. Gilbert. This has been the inaugural episode of Season 2 of Watching Thrones. See you next week.
This episode was presented by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.